See the barrel? About 4.5 feet tall? There's nothing unusual about it, except for the fact that it's bobbing and dunking just above the churning chaos of Niagara Falls. Another moment or two, and the barrel's hurtling over the edge and toward the bottom of the waterfall more than 170 feet down. What you can't see is that there's a person inside the barrel. Annie Edson Taylor was born into a family with 8 kids. Her father was a flour mill owner. He passed away when the girl was 12, but he left enough money for his family to have a comfortable living. So when Annie decided to build a schoolteacher career, there was nothing to prevent her from doing it. She even earned an honors degree after finishing a 4-year-long training course. While studying, she met her future husband. Unfortunately, their marriage didn't last long. Sadly, Annie became a widow. The woman spent decades of her life in all kinds of teaching jobs and moving between different places. Years later, she ended up in Bay City, Michigan. She wanted to become a dancing instructor, but there wasn't any dancing schools in the city. No problem, Taylor opened up one of her own. In 1900, she moved to the city of Sault Ste. Marie to teach music. Later, she traveled to San Antonio, Texas, and even visited Mexico City in search of work. When this attempt failed, she returned to Bay City. But all this traveling, though exciting, left her with almost no money and very few belongings. She needed to work out a way to bolster her bank account for when she wouldn't be able to work anymore. One day, she was reading a newspaper article about the daredevils who had been riding out the dangerous rapids at the bottom of Niagara Falls. An idea occurred to her. She thought, why don't I do better and actually plunge over the waterfall? If I survive, I'll become famous. In truth, Annie had no doubt she would get out of this adventure alive. She was an exceptionally determined and upbeat woman. That's why she immediately got down to work, putting her plan into action. Annie wasn't naive enough to believe she would manage to survive the fall without some kind of protection. That's why Annie chose to use a custom-made pickle barrel. She designed the vessel herself. First, she sketched a diagram and made a prototype out of cardboard. Then she hand-picked each piece of wood that had to be used for the barrel. A local company that produced beverage kegs used this wood to construct the barrel. It was an uneven, 5-foot-tall and 3-foot-wide container made of white oak and weighing about 160 pounds. It was secured by 10 wide metal hoops. Inside the cask, there was a leather harness to prevent Annie from bouncing around and a mattress to cushion the fall. A massive 200-pound metal block was placed at the bottom of the barrel. It had to serve as ballast, keeping the barrel in the upright position. Soon, everything was ready for the show. Annie decided to perform it on her 63rd birthday, on October 24, 1901. Curiously, the woman told the reporter she was in her 40s. People who were supposed to help Taylor with her plunge were skeptical. Even on the day when it had to take place, the event was put off several times. The assistants were afraid that if something went wrong, they would be to blame. But finally, at about 4 p.m., the barrel was loaded onto a rowboat and Annie climbed inside. She was holding her lucky heart-shaped pillow. The assistant screwed down the lid and pumped in some fresh air. There had to be enough for her to breathe for 1 hour, but the entire trick was supposed to take much less time, about 20 minutes. Finally, the hole used for venting the air was corked, and the brave woman floated away on her risky business. Several thousand onlookers were eyeing the process. The container with Annie inside was towed from the Niagara River's deeper Canadian side toward the Horseshoe Falls. It's the largest of the 2 cascades that form Niagara Falls. Near Goat Island, the barrel was set adrift and floated toward the mighty cataract. Was Annie nervous? Yeah, that would be a great understatement. Her heart was beating wildly in her chest. Her breathing was fast, too fast. Her hands and feet were cold and her palms sweaty. It felt as if there wasn't enough air inside the wooden container, but the woman was determined to be brave. Suddenly, the barrel accelerated, caught in the current, and dashed toward the edge of the waterfall. People watching from the shore couldn't see it anymore. The thing was lost in the mist surrounding the whirling water. Inside her fragile shelter, Annie was listening to the roar of the falls. It was growing louder and louder. A moment of bizarre calm at the very edge, and the barrel plunged from the height greater than the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. The fall was shorter than Annie had expected. Mere seconds later, her vessel hit the surface and went underwater. The barrel was spinning wildly and tossed around like a twig. A moment later, it resurfaced. The vessel was intact, but water had already started to seep in. After drifting downstream for a while, the barrel came to a stop at a rock in the river. Immediately, Annie's assistants were next to it. A bunch of anxious men tore the lid off. Annie, seasick, bruised, and clutching her soaked pillow, was looking back at them. One of the rescuers was so shocked to see her alive that he grabbed a megaphone and shouted this news to the spectators. The Maid of the Mist, a tour boat lingering nearby, blew her horn to celebrate Annie's success. Annie said later that she had lost consciousness only once, right after the fall. The rest of the time, she was alert and feeling everything that was happening to the barrel. Annie found the fame she had been seeking. She was nicknamed the Goddess of Water and got celebrity status almost instantly after her adventure. People even wrote poems about her. Sadly, she didn't manage to earn as much money as she had hoped, and her fame was fleeting. Annie wrote memoirs, and she was going to sell the book near Niagara Falls. But her manager disappeared, having stolen her barrel. Annie spent almost all her savings on private detectives trying to get the thing back. She had been planning to use it as a prop while giving public speeches. Sometime later, the barrel was spotted in Chicago. But before Annie could get her hands on it, the barrel vanished again, this time for good. The only thing Annie could do was to pose for photographs at her souvenir stand. She also tried to write a novel and reconstruct her fall on film, but no movie was ever shown. In 1906, the woman even mentioned she could take a second plunge into the waterfall, but it never happened. Several years after Annie's stunt, both the Canadian and New York authorities introduced special laws. They were supposed to prevent risk-takers from following in the schoolteacher's daring footsteps. It didn't stop people from trying and facing huge fines. Well, dare I say it? It was more fun than a barrel of monkeys.